So speaking of serious potential for the Browns, I'm going to talk about my wide receiver now. And I know this is a guy that a ton of you out there have mentioned, and you've shared about him online. You've commented, when are you going to talk about this kid? I'm going to talk about him right now. This is Malik Washington, wide receiver from Virginia. And I know he is rising up draft boards, but there's a lot to go through with Malik Washington. And it all starts with this. He is 5'8", 190 pounds. Okay. So at the combine, ran a 4.4 740, 1.53 10-yard split, 42.5 inch vertical, 10 foot 6 inch broad jump, and had 19 reps on the bench press. All right, so you're probably saying, Josh, why are you bringing up a 5'8" slot-specific receiver for the Cleveland Browns? If the Browns would decide to go with a guy like Javian Cohen a little earlier in the draft, like third roundish, maybe they go O-line in the second, maybe they take like a linebacker in the third, or whatever they decide to do, they pass on wide receiver with the second round pick. Maybe they pass on wide receiver at the third round. Malik Washington right now is projected as a day 3 pick, so the Browns could grab him maybe in the 4th round would be a nice spot. Maybe he even slides into the 5th round, and I think it's going to be very size related because the height, definitely a knock on him, but the dude is 190 pounds at 5'8". That means he is built. His BMI, like, it is great. Compare him to who you just talked about, Troy Franklin, 6'2", what was he, 175?
176, yeah.
176, tall, slender. This guy is short and stocky. He is very built, but according to everything that I'm reading, his size complements his mental and physical toughness and his football mechanics on the field. He has excellent ability to create separation, quick changes of direction, very tough to cover. That compact size helps him maintain great strength and balance. I keep hearing over and over one thing about him, contact balance. He gets the ball in his hands, he gets hit, he stays up. He's got very good leverage. He has got great control over his quick feet, and that leads to very precise cuts and moves when he's running his routes. He has strong hands. I've seen that from every scout. He extends his hands to the catch point, so he's not trying to like body catch all the passes that are thrown to him. You know, body catches, that can lead to breakups, deflected balls, things like that. So he's a high pointer. He likes to go get the ball, and you like to see wide receivers typically who are early declares. It means they were able to dominate older defenders in college. This is maybe a negative on Washington. He is a 5th-year senior. He's already 23 years old. He's going to turn 24 late in his rookie season, so he is an older prospect. I know there's concerns about his ability to run against good press corners at the NFL level. Shorter arms, obviously, that minimizes his catch radius. He's not a very good run blocker. Scouts don't think he can offer much on special teams. So those are kind of some of the reasons why, despite all the hype, production, which I'll get to in a minute, I think he's going to be available later in the draft. But anybody out there listening to this right now, if you love Malik Washington, if you've been screaming this whole time, what about his production? So I saved the production for last because it was awesome in 2023. So you talked about the 1,381 yards for Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
Malik Washington, 1,384 yards in 12 games. He had 138 targets, caught 111 receptions, 80% catch rate. Like I said, 1,384 yards, 12.5 yards per reception, 9 touchdowns, only dropped 3 passes on 138 targets. The first game of the season, he had just 29 yards. And then after that, he was over 100 yards the next straight 11 games. There was one week in there where he was at 97, but close enough. I'm going to count that. That is, his production was off the charts. Of all the wide receivers in the country or in the draft class, he had the most missed tackles forced, 35. So that's that contact balance I was talking about.
Right.
That means yards after the catch. His yards per route run, 3.15, which is a fantastic number. Like I talked about with Troy Franklin, that was the 11th highest in the nation, puts him in the top 5% of wide receivers in that category. And all the scouting reports just say he's small, but he has an alpha receiver mentality on the field. There's nobody tougher. He's got a total winner attitude. He wants the ball. He wants it in the biggest moments. So this is a dude who thrives under pressure in the big spots. He was asked in an interview if any of his meetings with NFL teams stood out to him. And he actually mentioned the Browns as one of the teams that stood out to him in his meetings along with the Raiders, Panthers, and Chiefs, which this guy on the Chiefs I think could be pretty dangerous too.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm honestly reading about him, watching some of the tape. I'm getting vibes of a stronger, more physical version of Tank Dell. Tank Dell came in last year 5'9", 5'10", but just 165 pounds. He came in at 23, turned 24 during the season, same type of thing. And I think that Malik Washington has all the mechanical, all the mental tools to be a stud at the NFL level. I know we like the bigger bodied receivers, the guys like, or some, these other receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, of course, these guys can dominate on the outside and inside. But like I said, the NFL is playing 70% zone coverage on average. Is becoming more and more important. You got to have these receivers who can consistently win and dominate the intermediate areas of the field. You got to be able to make guys miss after you get the ball in your hands, gain yards after the catch, and that's what Malik Washington does.
Man, that sounds amazing. And I know this guy's been a bone of contention in the Discord. I said, no, I think this is Gage wants us to get this guy. I'm gonna do the soundbite right now. Hot dang. That is unreal what you just said. And you know what? I get the Tank Dell comparison. You know what I hear? Steve Smith.
Okay. Yeah.
Here. Especially with the nastiness attitude. Like I kept hearing you say, and every time I hear you talk about him, like, man, he's smaller. The only thing that he doesn't have that Steve Smith does, I believe Steve Smith actually made the Carolina Panthers because he was a special teams ace as well.
Oh,
so he could ball. So if this guy can't, whatever, I mean, if he can somehow figure to get open and beat press coverage in the NFL, sounds like he can find some seams and he can go, man. So that sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, and I'm just looking ahead at the Browns and what could potentially develop throughout this season and into next season. Not trying to look too far ahead, but we always have to have a mind toward the future. The Browns have Jerry Jeudy now and Elijah Moore both on the end of their last year of their deals. So are we going to be re-signing both of those guys? Are they both going to produce at a level where we want to bring them back? I'm hopeful for Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. I like the player, but I think that a guy like Malik Washington could come in and immediately be the same type of role on the field that we want Elijah Moore to do. But I think that obviously we would get him on his rookie deal, so we'd have 4 years of him cheap. And I really do this guy's mentality, and I was watching highlights of him and watching through some plays and some games. The route running is on point, and what he does with his feet to throw off the defenders, he gets open. As soon as he gets that ball in his hands, like I've seen a couple plays where he gets smacked and stays on his feet, and then he turns on the jets. He might not have top end speed like some of these other prospects, but again, You're not asking him to line up outside and go, a 9 route and beat anybody. Get the ball in this kid's hands, let him break a tackle, and then he can go. And I got very excited watching highlights of Malik Washington.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It sounds amazing. And hey, if the guy's like a little bowling ball, like let's do it.
Yeah, let's go.